new kind of video from me looking at 5 albums that came out in the early stages of January, which we're still currently in, that are worth checking out, but you might not have heard about them because they're going a bit under the radar and they're not particularly very well-known releases. Something that I think is a bit underrated or not talked about enough is that early first week of January where you're just scrolling through Bandcamp or scrolling through really niche lists that, you know, are full with people that are just listening to loads and loads of new music, and you find some random undiscovered gems that no one's talking about, and you just click play on them and you actually end up finding something really likable and enjoyable from these releases, despite the fact that they might have like 2 ratings on Rate Your Music or some shit like that, or you go to the artist's Twitter page and they've got like 300 followers or something like that. So I thought I'd take that to my advantage, or use that to my advantage, and make a little video highlighting some of the releases that I've heard at the start of January here. Certainly not ones I'm seeing being mentioned a lot. Maybe one of these actually is being mentioned a little bit more than the others, but even still, some recommendations that you might not have heard. And obviously it's a pretty slow period anyway, so there's not exactly a huge amount of albums coming out that I could review in an individual level anyway, so why not just bulk them together in a list like this. I'm going to start with probably my favorite one here, an artist named MonoNeon, who is an artist that has a lot of albums under their belt. Like, this guy seems to be pretty prolific with releases. I'm gonna have to go back and check out some of the others because this one is a whole lot of fun. Like, I guess you could call it synth funk, sort of. It's got a bit of like hypnagogic pop too, and a bit of neo-psychedelic vibes like in the undertones of the album. But generally the selling point is definitely this guy's voice and this guy's delivery and this guy's really wacky and over-the-top humor. I mean, the opening track, read the title, Spider-Man was on crack one day. Yeah, you get the appeal of what this guy is trying to do. He's a pretty silly guy with his humor. In some ways, I'm reminded of like Thundercat mixing up with like Tay Zonday meeting, you know, Zach Fox, all kind of blending together to create this hybrid of weirdness, of, you know, strange humor and strange instrumentals. Like, the idea of what he's going for is a little fun, is a little silly, and to be honest, it ends up landing more often than not, and the tracks are pretty catchy too. His delivery is kind of akin to someone like Jermaine from Flight of the Conchords, although not every joke lands in the way that Flight of the Conchords make their jokes land, because that's a pretty hard hard feat to achieve. But still, I think even a minor comparison to something like that is definitely worth your time, because he is pretty funny and these tracks are quite fun too. It's a short little release. I like it. That Handsome Devil is a band that have been going for ages, another one that have a lot of albums under their belt, and this album here I thought was pretty solid. It's got a bit of like a sort of like the Drones vibe, the band The Drones, of course, or like Tropical Fuckstorm, the other band that Gareth Lydiard is fronting and you know, the mastermind behind. But it sort of reminds me that it's sometimes got that kind of like punkish blues element. The lyrics are very overtly political on many of these tracks. It's a bit on the nose at times, to be honest. I would have thought they could have tidied up the lyrics, because sometimes it's just very much surface level things that they point out, but even still the tracks themselves sound pretty damn good, so I think that's the main appeal of what they're going for here. So yeah, some rock music to start the year. Not the best thing I've ever heard or anything like that, but I definitely think they are worth your time. Now I want to mention the artist who I did say is getting a bit more exposure, a bit more talked about than the other ones here, mostly due to the fact that he manages to get like viral videos pretty frequently, and that is William Maranci with the William Maranci album. Not a particularly very original album name, but that doesn't matter. This guy, honestly, type in his name on YouTube, click on his, you know, most popular videos and scroll through. He's got millions upon millions upon millions of views, so me mentioning him might not even be that much of a surprise to you guys who are viewing, because you might have already heard of him. I mean, whether it's his Bohemian Rhapsody mashup or many other many other mashups that this guy's put together that you may have just stumbled upon on YouTube. But yes, that track Bohemian Rhapsody is on this album. It closes out the album. It's a fantastic combination of worlds that I just no clue how he managed to come up with this. It reminds me of when I first heard Neil Cicierega, who has always been one of the biggest names in like mashup music. He's always been, you know, pointed to as one of the best at doing it. But I think his most recent album was really, really a huge letdown. But I don't think William lets you down here, because some of these mashups are really clever, really smart, really funny. They're catchy as well. I think that's all you can ask for with an album like this, because it's gimmicky as hell. But if you can make the tracks work and combine them to make catchy music, I think that's all you can really ask for from this kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, and definitely check this out if you haven't heard it already. Key and Tony Seltzer here, two names I didn't recognize from name until I realized that Tony Seltzer is a producer, and he's always been working with Wiki, by the way, the fantastic New York rapper who is sort of underappreciated. I feel like his music's been really good for years. I mean, his stuff with Rat King is great, his stuff solo is great. His most recent album that came out in 2019 was fantastic and made my year-end list. So when I realized it was him, I was definitely wanting to check this out, because I hadn't heard the name Key, but he is apparently a bit of an underground legend, actually. Hadn't heard much from him before, but I do think this album's pretty admirable, actually, and has some really fun, energetic, bouncy tracks where Key is just kind of like really throwing out his voice in strange ways. He's very distinct and very animated, so I feel like that could be a big appeal for a lot of people listening to this. Often reminds me of someone like A$AP Ferg, who just kind of has that really like yelpy voice that comes through in weird ways. Even someone like maybe Ski Master, Slump God, or any other kind of like artist working in the trap rap field that just has a really odd, strange little voice. He gets a bit annoying at times. Sometimes he goes a bit far with it, a bit grating, but I will say that it is a pretty solid listen from front to back. And I think, again, this could actually have a huge appeal amongst many different rap audiences. So definitely check it out. And finally, for the fifth album here, you know, no bearing on the quality. This isn't an ordered list. I didn't want to put this at the end because it's the worst one. Absolutely not. It's actually one of the best ones here. Matt Lajoie with this really pensive and sun-kissed and ambient album that really just makes you feel like you're waking up on a really like cold, brisk morning, but the sun is rising slowly and you're just going for a walk in some kind of like strange highlands area or something like that. It's got some really beautiful melodies. I was taken aback by how little was going on in terms of, you know, the music, because it's not like there's loads of instrumentation, you know, being thrown at you all at once. It's actually very, very minimal, and you can often hear just this guitar playing lingering throughout, but it sounds really, really gorgeous. Like, I was impressed at, again, how he uses so little but manages to create such a lovely atmosphere by doing that. And again, with him being such an unknown name, it was a surprise to me that, again, this guy is actually putting out some really nice music here and isn't being brought up or mentioned by anyone at all. It was the perfect album to mention for a little list like this, and I hope you enjoyed the list, by the way. I've never done anything like this before, but it certainly seemed like a good idea. I might keep this up, you know, for the rest of January, because January is a very quiet month generally, and I feel like there will be, you know, slow periods where there are lots of albums coming out that aren't really being talked about, but, you know, there's not a huge amount of huge, massive albums that are being released, because I've looked at the schedule for January and there isn't a lot in terms of big names dropping. So maybe keep this one up, but we'll see. I don't want to promise anything and then not stick to it. So I'll just say it could be something, depending on what you guys think of it anyway. You know, if it ends up getting like 25 views, then I'll know that I won't do this ever again. But of course, it won't actually get 25 views. I'm only joking, obviously. But yeah, definitely want to hear your thoughts on these releases in the comments. What you think of this video, if it was a good idea and you enjoyed it, that would be great. I'm always welcome to feedback. And yeah, check out these albums if you've not heard them already. I will link like Bandcamp links and all that kind of stuff in the description box as well. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching this video. Do have a good day and goodbye.